10 years had passed since the day Earth almost died. 10 years since Overlord Thekmar fell. 10 years since humanity proved it could survive against impossible odds. The world had changed. Earth was stronger now, its defenses better. The orbital stations that ringed the planet were no longer temporary war measures, but permanent guardians. Humanity had learned its lesson. They would never be caught unprepared again. But more than the weapons had changed. Humanity itself had changed. Captain Deho stood in front of a wall covered in names. The Memorial Wall, they called it. It listed every human who died in the Vrath War. Thousands upon thousands of names carved into black stone. He came here every week, sometimes every day. His fingers traced across familiar names. Hion, Minho, the Reapers who died fighting beside him, the soldiers from Bastion 7 who never made it to the escape pods, his friends from Mars who died in the first minutes of the massacre. "Do you remember all of them?" a voice asked behind him. Deho turned. A young woman stood there, maybe 25 years old. She wore the uniform of the Reaper Corps. The enhanced soldiers still existed, but different now. Reformed. Better. "Not all of them," Deho admitted. "But I try. They deserve to be remembered." "My name is Jiwan," the woman said. She stepped forward nervously. "I'm about to undergo the enhancement process. I wanted to talk to you first, to ask you if I should do it." Deho looked at her carefully. She was young and scared, but determined. He saw himself in her face. The person he used to be before Mars, before everything. "Why do you want to become a Reaper?" he asked. "Because I want to protect people. The Vrath made peace with us, but there are other threats out there. Other species that might attack us. I want to be strong enough to stop them." "The enhancements will make you strong," Deho said. "But they come with a cost. You'll be faster and stronger than normal humans. Your senses will be sharper. Your body will heal from injuries that would kill others. But you'll also carry the weight of everything you do. Every person you kill will stay with you forever. The memories won't fade." Jiwan nodded slowly. "The instructors told me. They said you pushed for the new protocol, the one that lets Reapers keep their emotions. I did, because I learned something during the war. Being human isn't a weakness. It's our greatest strength. The old Reapers were weapons. Efficient, deadly, but hollow. The new Reapers are soldiers who can think and feel and choose. That's what makes them special." "But doesn't it hurt?" Jiwan asked quietly. "Feeling everything?" "Every day," Deho admitted. "I still have nightmares about the people I've killed. I still see their faces. Sometimes I wake up thinking I'm back on Mars alone in the dark. The emotions don't make it easier. They make it harder." "Then why do you think it's worth it?" Deho smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. "Because I can also feel joy when I see children playing safely. I can feel love for my friends. I can feel hope for the future. The old me couldn't feel any of that. I was just a weapon pointed at an enemy. Now I'm a person who chooses to fight, and that choice matters." Jiwan thought about this. "If I become a Reaper, if I keep my emotions, will I be able to handle it?" "I don't know," Deho said honestly. "Some people can. Some people break under the weight. But you won't be alone. We'll help you. We'll teach you how to carry the burden, how to be strong without losing yourself. Will you teach me?" "If you want." Jiwan nodded. "Then I want to do it. I want to become a Reaper, but the new kind, the human kind." Deho shook her hand. "Welcome to the Corps. Training starts tomorrow." He watched her walk away, young and hopeful and scared. So much like he used to be. He hoped she would survive the process. Hoped she would stay human. Hoped the world would never need to use her in battle, but if it did, she would be ready. Later that day, Deho met with Fleet Admiral Taeyang. The older man had aged well. His hair was gray now, and he walked with a slight limp from an old injury. But his eyes were still sharp and kind. "Another volunteer?" Taeyang asked. "Yes, a good one, I think. Reminded me of myself." "That's either very good or very concerning," Taeyang said with a smile. They sat in his office, which overlooked a valley filled with new buildings. Schools, hospitals, homes. The places people lived when they weren't fighting wars. "How's the peace holding?" Deho asked. "Surprisingly well. The Vrath Collective sued for peace after Thekmar died. They respect strength, and we proved we have it. There have been some tensions, some arguments over territory, but no more fighting. No more massacres. Do you trust them?" Taeyang thought about this. "No, but I don't think we need to. Trust takes time. For now, it's enough that we both know the cost of war. They lost almost 1 million soldiers. We lost hundreds of thousands of civilians. Nobody wants to go through that again. What about the other species, the ones the Wrath conquered? Many of them are seeking independence now that the collective is weakened. There's a lot of chaos in that part of space. Some people think we should intervene, help the smaller species, build alliances. And what do you think? Deho asked. I think we should help where we can, but carefully, not as conquerors, not as weapons, as friends and partners. Taeyang looked at Deho. That's why the Reaper program is so important. We need soldiers who can fight when necessary, but we also need soldiers who can think, who can show compassion, who can represent the best of humanity. No pressure, Deho said dryly. Taeyang laughed. It was good to hear him laugh. For so long during the war, neither of them had been able to find joy in anything. That evening, Deho returned to his small home. It was nothing fancy, just a simple house on a colony world called New Dawn. The planet had been settled 5 years ago by people who wanted a fresh start after the war. Deho had chosen to live here, instead of on Earth. Too many memories on Earth, too many ghosts. His neighbor, an older woman named Yoonji, waved to him from her garden. Evening, Captain. Got time for dinner? Not tonight, Eunji, maybe tomorrow. You always say that, she called after him. One of these days I'm going to hold you to it. Tomorrow, Deho promised. And this time he meant it. Inside his house he sat in the quiet. For years after the war he had hated silence. It reminded him of Mars, of the 6 months alone in the dark. But he had learned to accept it. Silence wasn't emptiness. It was just the space between moments. He pulled out an old photograph, the one Taeyang had shown him years ago. His unit on Mars, all of them smiling and young and alive. He still didn't remember taking this picture. His memories of that time were fragments, pieces that didn't quite fit together. But he knew these people had been his friends. He knew they had died, and he knew he fought to honor them. I hope I made you proud, he whispered to the photograph. I hope the person I became is someone you would have followed. The picture, of course, didn't answer. But in his heart, Deho thought they would have understood. They would have accepted what he became. They would have forgiven him for the terrible things he did. He hoped so anyway. A message came through on his communication device. It was from Sora. She was one of the few original Reapers who survived the war. Now she worked as an instructor, helping train new volunteers. Deho, are you coming to the ceremony tomorrow? They're dedicating a new memorial for the Reapers who died during the war. He thought about it. Going to memorials was always hard. Seeing the names, remembering the faces, feeling the weight of all those deaths, but he had to go. They deserved to be remembered. They deserved to have someone stand for them and say their sacrifices mattered. I'll be there, he sent back. The next day, hundreds of people gathered for the ceremony. Soldiers in uniform stood beside civilians who had lost family members. Reaper Corps members wore their black armor polished to a mirror shine. Fleet Admiral Taeyang gave a speech about courage and sacrifice. When it came time to unveil the memorial, Deho helped pull away the covering. Underneath was a statue. It showed a Reaper removing their helmet, revealing a human face. Not a weapon, not a monster, just a person. The inscription read, "They became more than human so that humanity could survive." They never forgot what they were fighting for. Deho stared at the statue for a long time. It looked like him. Like all of them. The Reapers who chose to keep their humanity, who chose to feel pain and joy and hope, who chose to be soldiers instead of weapons. After the ceremony, young Jiwon approached him. She had started her enhancement process. Already she moved differently, more gracefully, but her eyes were still warm and human. "Sir, do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Becoming what you are?" It was the question everyone asked eventually. The question Deho asked himself late at night when the nightmares came. He looked at the memorial, at the names carved into stone, at the people gathered to remember, at the children playing in the background, safe and happy and alive. "Every day," he said honestly, "I regret the killing. I regret the pain I caused. I regret the person I used to be, the one I can barely remember. I regret that war forced us to create soldiers like me." He paused, then continued, "But I don't regret the choice to protect people. I don't regret standing between humanity and extinction. I don't regret keeping my emotions even though they hurt. Because being human, even a broken human, is better than being a perfect weapon. What if I can't handle it? Ji-won asked quietly. What if the emotions are too much? Then we'll help you, Daeho said firmly. The alarm screamed through the corridors of Bastion 7. Commander Taeyang ran through the smoke-filled hallway, his boots splashing through pools of blood. Behind him, explosions shook the walls. The space station was dying. Commander, we need to move now, Lieutenant Minji shouted over the radio. Her voice was calm, but Taeyang could hear the fear underneath. They both knew the truth. Bastion 7 had fallen. Taeyang turned a corner and saw what remained of his forces. 200 soldiers. That was all. 47 days ago, he had commanded 8,000. Now most of them were dead. The Vrath Collective had won. The Vrath were monsters from humanity's nightmares. They stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms and natural armor covering their bodies. Their weapons could cut through human defenses like paper. For weeks, they had attacked Bastion 7 without rest. Now they were inside, hunting down the survivors. How many escape pods are left? Taeyang asked. 6, sir. Maybe 7 if we're lucky, Minji replied. She was checking her tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. But the Vrath control the main corridors. We'll have to fight our way through. Taeyang looked at his soldiers. They were exhausted. Many were wounded. Some could barely stand. But they were still alive, and he would keep them that way if he could. All units, this is Commander Taeyang. Fall back to Escape Pod Bay 3. Fight only if you must. Our priority is survival. The radio crackled with responses. Some soldiers sounded relieved. Others sounded angry. They wanted to keep fighting. But Taeyang knew better. This battle was over. They had lost. Private Soman appeared at his side. She was young, barely 22, and worked as a medic. Her uniform was covered in blood from the soldiers she had tried to save. Sir, we have 37 wounded. Some of them can't walk. We carry them, Taeyang said simply. No one gets left behind. Soman nodded and moved back to help the injured. Taeyang watched her go and felt a weight in his chest. So many good people had died here. So many more would die before this day ended. Suddenly, Specialist Hyun ran up to him. Hyun was their communications officer, a thin young man who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Commander, something strange is happening. What now? Taeyang asked, too tired to feel surprised. The Vrath in Section 14 have gone silent. All of them. No radio signals, no movement on the sensors, nothing. Taeyang frowned. Section 14 was the old research wing. It had been abandoned years ago when the project there was shut down. Maybe they're regrouping. That's what I thought, sir. But then I checked the security cameras. Hyun pulled up his tablet and showed Taeyang the screen. The video showed a corridor in Section 14. 30 Vrath soldiers lay dead on the floor. They hadn't been killed by explosions or gunfire. They had been cut apart with blades. The walls were covered in their dark blue blood. Who did this? Taeyang whispered. I don't know, sir. But look at this. Hyun switched to another camera. This one was still working. It showed a figure moving through the darkness. The person wore black armor that seemed to absorb light. They carried a rifle on their back and blades in their hands. They moved like a ghost, silent and fast. As Taeyang watched, 3 Vrath soldiers appeared around a corner. They raised their weapons. The figure in black moved before they could fire. In 3 seconds, all 3 Vrath were dead. The figure didn't slow down. They just kept walking, my God, Minji whispered. She had come to watch over Taeyang's shoulder. Who is that? I don't know. But I want to find out. Taeyang turned to Hyun. Can you track them? I'm trying, sir. They're moving toward the escape pod base. The same direction we're going. A thought struck Taeyang. Hyun, look up Section 14. What was the project there? Hyun's fingers flew across his tablet. His face went pale. Sir, Section 14 was a black site. Most of the files are classified. But I found one designation. Project Reaper. Status terminated 5 years ago. Reaper, Taeyang repeated. The word felt cold in his mouth. The radio suddenly filled with Vrath voices. Hyun quickly translated. They're panicking, sir. They're calling for reinforcements. They say there's a death shadow hunting them. The Vrath don't panic, Minji said quietly. They're trained from birth to know no fear. Then what could scare them? Taeyang asked. They got their answer 10 minutes later. Taeyang's group reached Escape Pod Bay 3. The heavy doors were sealed shut. Minji worked on the control panel, trying to override the locks. The soldiers formed a defensive circle, weapons ready. They all expected Vrath to appear at any moment. The doors opened. Everyone raised their guns. The bay was full of bodies. Vrath bodies. Dozens of them. They had been killed with terrible efficiency. Some had been shot. Others had been cut down with blades. A few looked like they had been killed with their own weapons. And standing in the middle of the carnage was the figure in black. The figure turned slowly to face them. For a long moment nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The figure's armor was covered in blood. Strange marks covered the shoulder plates. Taeyang realized they were tally marks. Thousands of them. The figure reached up with both hands and grabbed their helmet. Slowly they pulled it off. Taeyang felt the world stop. The face under the helmet was thin and scarred. The eyes were dark and empty. But Taeyang knew that face. He had served with that face. He had watched that face die 5 years ago on Mars. "Hello, Commander," Captain Daeho said. His voice was flat and emotionless. "Miss me?" Taeyang couldn't speak. His mind was racing. Daeho was dead. Daeho had died in the Mars massacre along with 12,000 other soldiers. Taeyang had read the reports. He had attended the memorial service. He had spoken at Daeho's funeral. But here Daeho stood covered in alien blood, looking at Taeyang with dead eyes. "You're supposed to be dead," Taeyang finally managed to say. "I was," Daeho replied, "for a while. Then they brought me back." He gestured at the dead Vrath around him. "The escape pods are functional. You should leave now. More Vrath are coming." "What happened to you?" Minji asked. She had her gun lowered but not holstered. "What are you?" Daeho looked at her for a moment. Then he looked down at his hands. They were covered in blood. "I'm what humanity needed me to be. A weapon, a killer, a reaper." The word hung in the air like smoke. Soman stepped forward, her medic instincts overriding her fear. "You're injured." "Let me help." "I'm fine," Daeho said. But even as he spoke, Taeyang could see the lie. Daeho's left arm hung at an odd angle. Blood dripped from a wound in his side. "You're not fine," Taeyang said firmly. "Whatever you are now, you were once my soldier, and I don't leave my soldiers behind." For the first time, something flickered in Daeho's dead eyes. It might have been surprise. Or perhaps pain. "You should, Commander." "I'm not the man you remember. That man died on Mars. I'm just what they made from what was left." "Then tell me what happened," Taeyang said. "Tell me how you're alive." Daeho was quiet for a long moment. Outside they could hear explosions and gunfire. The battle for Bastion 7 was still raging. But here in this room full of corpses there was only silence. Finally Daeho spoke. "After Mars fell, I was trapped in the underground research facility. For 6 months I survived alone in the dark. I ate rations I found in the ruins. I drank contaminated water. I watched as the Vrath hunted through the wreckage looking for survivors to execute." He paused. His hand touched one of the blades at his belt. "I was dying when they found me. Not the Vrath, humans, a black operations team. They were retrieving classified data from the facility. They gave me a choice. Die in the ruins or volunteer for something called Project Reaper. And you chose to live," Minji said softly. "I chose revenge," Daeho corrected. "They promised me they could make me strong enough to kill Vrath, as many as I wanted. So I said yes." Taeyang looked at the bodies around them, at the blood, at the efficient, brutal killing. "What did they do to you?" Daeho met his eyes. "They made me into this. A weapon that doesn't sleep, doesn't fear, doesn't feel. They enhanced my body, modified my brain, and trained me to kill. For 4 years they remade me into something that could hunt Vrath the way Vrath hunt us." "How many have you killed?" Selman asked quietly. Daeho touched the tally marks on his armor. 3,847. Give or take a few dozen. The number was incomprehensible. Taeyang felt sick. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Are you still following orders?" Daeho smiled. It was a terrible smile, empty of any warmth. "No, Commander. I'm not following anyone's orders anymore. I'm here because wherever the Vrath go, I follow. And I kill them. That's what I am now. That's all I am," the radio crackled. Hyun's voice came through, urgent and afraid. "Commander, the Vrath Overlord is broadcasting. You need to hear this." Taeho pressed a button on his radio. A deep, harsh voice filled the bay. It spoke in broken human language. "Humans of Bastion 7. I am Overlord Thekmar. Your station has fallen. Surrender now and you will become servants of the collective. Refuse and you will die." The voice paused. Then it continued, colder now. "To the death shadow that haunts my warriors. I know you are there. Face me in combat alone and I will spare the human prisoners. Hide like a coward and I will execute them all." Daeho's face didn't change, but his hand tightened on his blade. "Don't," Taeyang said. "It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap," Daeho replied. "But he's going to kill those prisoners whether I show up or not. This way, at least I can kill him first." Daeho moved through the dark corridors like smoke. His armor's sensors showed him everything. Heat signatures, movement, the breathing patterns of Wrath soldiers 3 rooms away. The enhanced implants in his brain processed all this information faster than normal thought. He knew where his enemies were before they knew he was coming. Behind him, he could hear Taeyang's soldiers loading into the escape pods. Good. They would survive. That was more than most people got in this war. He turned a corner and found 5 Wrath warriors waiting. They had known he would come this way. They had set an ambush. It didn't matter. Daeho's body moved before his conscious mind even registered the threat. His rifle came up and fired 3 times. 3 Wrath fell. The other 2 charged him with their blade weapons raised. Daeho dropped his rifle and drew his own blades. The first Wrath swung at his head. He ducked under the blow and cut through the alien's leg. As it fell, he spun and drove his second blade through the last Wrath's chest plate. The whole fight took 6 seconds. He kept walking. The bodies behind him didn't matter. They were just numbers to add to his count. His radio crackled. It was Taeyang. "Daeho, stop. We can evacuate everyone without you facing Thekmar. Just come back to the pods." "No," Daeho said simply. He switched off the radio. The truth was he had stopped caring about evacuation plans. He had stopped caring about strategy. All that mattered was killing Wrath. It was the only thing that made sense anymore. The only thing that felt right. He reached the central atrium 20 minutes later. It was a huge open space in the middle of the station, originally designed as a meeting hall. Now it was full of Wrath soldiers. 300 of them, all armed and ready. They formed a circle around the edges of the room. In the center, on a raised platform, stood Overlord Thekmar. The Overlord was massive, even for a Wrath. He stood 9 feet tall and wore armor covered in battle honors. Behind him, kneeling on the ground, were 20 human prisoners. Wrath guards held weapons to their heads. "Death Shadow," Thekmar called out. His voice echoed through the atrium. "You have come. Good. Now remove your helmet. Let me see the face of the creature that kills my warriors." Daeho walked forward slowly. He stopped in the center of the room, surrounded by enemies. Without hesitation, he pulled off his helmet. Thekmar leaned forward, studying him. "You are human, small, weak. How do you kill so many of my soldiers?" "Practice," Daeho replied. Some of the Wrath warriors shifted nervously. Thekmar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "I offer you terms, human. Surrender to me. Let my scientists study you. Tell us how you were made. In return, these prisoners live." Daeho looked at the prisoners. They were terrified. Some were crying. Others stared at him with desperate hope in their eyes. They thought he would save them. "No," Daeho said. Thekmar's eyes narrowed. "You refuse? Then they die. And you die, and you will have accomplished nothing." "I'll have accomplished killing you," Daeho said. He dropped his helmet and drew his blades. The atrium exploded into violence. Daeho moved faster than human eyes could follow. His enhancements made him stronger, faster, more aware than any normal person. He was a weapon designed to kill aliens, and he was very good at his job. The first wave of Wrath came at him from all sides. He spun between them, his blades cutting through armor and flesh. Blood sprayed across the floor. Bodies fell. He didn't stop moving. Couldn't stop. If he stopped, they would overwhelm him. A Wrath blade caught his shoulder, cutting through the armor. Pain registered in his mind, but the implants immediately suppressed it. He couldn't afford to feel pain. He drove his blade up through the Wrath's throat and moved to the next target. 30 seconds. 20 dead Wrath, 1 minute. 45 dead, 2 minutes. 70 dead. But there were still over 200 left, and they were learning. They stopped trying to fight him one at a time. Instead, they used their weapons from a distance. Energy bolts and acid spray filled the air. Daeho dodged most of them, but not all. His armor was melting in places. His left arm was burned. A bolt had grazed his leg. He was slowing down. 3 Wrath tackled him from behind. He went down hard, rolling across the blood-slick floor. They pinned him down with their superior weight and strength. One raised a blade to finish him. The blade never fell. The Wrath's head exploded. Then the other 2 collapsed. Holes burned through their skulls. Gunfire echoed through the atrium. Daeho looked up and saw Taeyang's soldiers pouring in through 3 different entrances. Minji led one group. They were carrying strange weapons that glowed with blue energy. Plasma rifles. Experimental weapons from the old research labs. The weapons were unstable and dangerous. But right now they were cutting through Vrath armor like it was paper. Taeyang himself appeared at the main entrance. He had 30 soldiers with him. All units focus fire on the platform. Protect the prisoners. The battle became chaos. Humans with experimental weapons fighting Vrath warriors while Deho, broken and bleeding, tried to stand. His enhanced body was failing. The damage was too much. His neural implants were sparking, sending error messages directly into his brain. He stumbled forward anyway. Through the smoke and fire, he could see Thekmar. The Overlord was retreating toward an emergency exit, leaving his soldiers to die. Coward Deho ran. His leg nearly gave out, but he forced it to work. He had to reach Thekmar, had to kill him. It was all that mattered. He was 10 feet away when Thekmar turned and smiled. The Overlord held up a small device. You fought well, Death Shadow, but not well enough. He pressed a button. Warning alarms shrieked throughout the station. A computer voice began counting down. Self-destruct sequence activated. Station destruction in 15 minutes. Taeyang's voice came over every speaker. All forces fall back to the escape pods immediately. This is not a drill. Bastion 7 is going to explode. Thekmar laughed. It was a horrible sound full of hatred and triumph. Your station dies. My ships will study the wreckage and learn your secrets. Goodbye, humans. He ran for the exit. Deho tried to follow, but his legs finally gave out. He fell to his knees, his body shutting down from the damage and the failing implants. Around him, Taeyang's soldiers were grabbing the prisoners and running for the escape pods. Minji appeared at his side. Can you walk? Go, Deho managed to say. Get them out. Not without you. She pulled him up, supporting his weight. Together they stumbled toward the exit. The station was tearing itself apart. Explosions rocked the corridors. The lights flickered and died. In the darkness, Deho could hear the screams of people who wouldn't make it to the pods in time. They reached the docking bay where Taeyang had gathered the survivors. Everyone was loading into the Vrath shuttles they had captured. Taeyang was doing a head count, making sure everyone was accounted for. Salman ran up to them. Get him on a shuttle. I'll treat him once we're away. But as Minji tried to guide Deho toward the nearest shuttle, he pulled away. No. What do you mean, no? Minji demanded. You're coming with us. Deho shook his head. His vision was blurring. His enhanced body was failing completely now. Someone needs to stay. Make sure everyone gets away. Make sure the Vrath don't follow. You can't, Salman said. Her eyes were wet with tears. You'll die. I died 5 years ago, Deho said. He pulled a data chip from his armor and handed it to Minji. Everything about Project Reaper. How they made me. What it cost. Give it to Earth. Let them decide if it was worth it. Taeyang pushed through the crowd. Deho, stop this. You're coming with us. I can't, Commander. Deho looked at his old friend. For the first time in 4 years, he felt something. Not the cold efficiency of his programming. Real emotion, sadness, regret. I'm too damaged. My implants are failing. I'd never survive the trip. But I can buy you time. I can make sure Thekmar doesn't send his ships after you. How? Taeyang asked. Deho smiled. It was a real smile this time, tired but genuine. The same way I've always fought. I'll make them too scared to follow. The station shook with another explosion. They were running out of time. Taeyang grabbed Deho's shoulders. You're not a weapon. You're a soldier, my soldier, and I don't leave my soldiers behind. Then don't leave, Deho said. Remember that I chose this. Remember that I was still human enough to choose. Before Taeyang could respond, Deho pushed him hard, sending him stumbling back toward the shuttle. Then he hit the door control. The shuttle bay door slammed shut, sealing Taeyang and the others inside. Deho turned and limped back into the dying station. Behind him, he could hear Taeyang shouting, pounding on the door. But the door was locked. They would have to leave without him. Good. He made his way through the collapsing corridors. Vrath soldiers were still evacuating, running for their own ships. Deho killed them as he went, not with the cold efficiency of before. Now he was clumsy, slow, dying, but he killed them anyway. Each death bought his people more time. He reached the observation deck and collapsed against the window. Through the glass he could see space, the stars, the Vrath fleet in the distance. and the small human shuttles burning away from the station at maximum speed. They were going to make it. His radio crackled. It was Taeyang. "Daeho, can you hear me?" "I hear you, Commander," Daeho said. His voice was weak now. "Why? Why did you really stay?" Daeho watched the stars. He thought about Mars, about the 6 months he spent alone in the dark. 3 months had passed since Bastion 7 fell. Earth looked different now. The blue planet that had known peace for 50 years was covered in weapons. Orbital defense platforms circled like deadly moons. The shipyards worked day and night building warships. Every human above the age of 16 was training for combat. The Vrath Grand Fleet was coming. 3,000 warships, enough firepower to burn every city on Earth to ash. Intelligence said humanity had 2 months before they arrived. Maybe less. Lieutenant Colonel Minji stood in an underground laboratory looking at screens full of medical data. She had been promoted after Bastion 7. Now she was in charge of something that made her sick to think about. Project Reaper. The Human Defense Council had made their decision. They were going to make more soldiers like Daeho. Hundreds of them. Thousands if they had time. The program was being called Reaper Protocol. "How many volunteers do we have?" Admiral Jinsu asked. He was visiting the facility, inspecting the progress. "More than we can use, sir," Minji replied. Word spread about what Daeho did at Bastion 7. People want that power. They want to be able to fight the Vrath on equal terms. Good. When can we begin the enhancement process? Minji hesitated. She had spent 3 months studying Daeho's data. She understood now what had been done to him. The genetic modifications, the neural implants, the psychological conditioning that stripped away emotions and free will. "Sir, there's something you need to understand. The enhancement process doesn't just make soldiers stronger. It changes who they are. The conditioning removes their ability to feel fear, love, compassion. It makes them efficient killers, but it also makes them less human." Jinsu's face was hard. "War makes us all less human, Colonel. At least this way we have a chance of survival." He walked away. Minji stood alone staring at the data. She thought about Daeho, about the empty look in his eyes, about how he couldn't remember the good person he used to be. Was this really the only way? In another part of the facility, Daeho sat in a small room. The doctors had healed his body. His bones had been repaired. His implants had been replaced. Physically, he was perfect again, but his mind was still broken. Taeyang visited him every day. Today, he brought pictures. Old photographs from before the war. "This is you and your unit on Mars," he said, showing Daeho a photo. "You're the one in the middle, smiling." Daeho stared at the picture. The man in the photo looked happy. He was laughing with his friends. Was that really him? "I don't remember being happy," Daeho said quietly. "I know. But you were. You used to tell jokes. Bad jokes. You made everyone laugh." Daeho touched the photo. His fingers traced the smiling face. "What happened to them?" "My friends in this picture?" Taeyang's expression darkened. "They died on Mars, all of them. The Vrath killed them." Something flickered in Daeho's eyes. Anger. Brief but real. "I hate them. The Vrath. I don't know why, but I hate them." "That's because you remember what they did, even if you can't remember the details." "Did I kill many of them?" Daeho asked. Taeyang nodded. "Thousands." "Good," Daeho said. Then he paused, confused. "Why did I say that? Why do I want them dead?" "Because they hurt people you cared about. Because they're trying to destroy humanity. Because someone has to stop them." Daeho was quiet for a long time. Finally he said, "I want to volunteer." "For what?" "The enhancement program. I heard the nurses talking. They're going to make more soldiers like me. Soldiers who can fight the Vrath. I want to help." Taeyang felt his heart sink. "Daeho, you don't understand. The process will change you. You might lose what little memory you have left." "I don't have much to lose," Daeho replied. "And if I can help stop the Vrath, if I can protect people, then it's worth it." "Isn't it?" Taeyang didn't know how to answer that. The first batch of Reaper volunteers began their enhancements the next week. 20 soldiers, all volunteers, all knowing what they were signing up for. Minji supervised the process personally. She wanted to make sure everything was done right. One of the volunteers was a young woman named Sora. She had lost her entire family when the Vrath attacked her colony. She wanted revenge. She wanted power. She wanted to become something that could hurt the Vrath the way they had hurt her. The enhancement process took 3 weeks. Genetic modifications, cybernetic implants, psychological conditioning. Every day, Minji watched as Sora changed. Her body became stronger. Her reflexes became faster. Her eyes became colder. On the final day, Minji ran a test. She showed Sora a video of children playing in a park. How does this make you feel? Sora watched the video without expression. I feel nothing. Should I? Minji felt sick. She dismissed Sora and sat alone in her office. What were they creating? Weapons, monsters, or humanity's only hope? That night, Sora came to see her. Colonel, I need to talk to you. What is it? The conditioning. It's working, but I can still feel something underneath, like a voice screaming inside my head, trying to break free. Is that normal? Minji checked Sora's medical data. Everything looked correct. The conditioning should have suppressed your emotions completely. You shouldn't be feeling anything, but I am, and it's getting louder. I'm scared, Colonel. What if I lose control? You won't, Minji said, trying to sound confident. But she didn't feel confident. She felt terrified. The next day, she went to see Daeho. He was in the training room practicing with weapons. His body moved with perfect efficiency, but there was something different about him now. Something in his eyes. Daeho, can we talk? He stopped training and looked at her. Of course, Colonel. The new volunteers. They're experiencing problems with the conditioning. Some of them can still feel emotions. Have you ever felt that way? Daeho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, yes, sometimes I feel things. Flashes of emotion that don't make sense, anger, sadness, fear. The implants try to suppress them, but they keep coming back. What do you do when that happens? I focus on the mission. On killing Vrath. It's easier than trying to understand what I'm feeling. Minji realized something horrible. The conditioning didn't remove emotions. It just buried them. Deep inside every Reaper, there was a human being screaming to get out. She went to the Defense Council with her findings. We need to stop the program. The conditioning is inhumane. It's torturing these people. Admiral Jinsu listened to her report. Then he said, Colonel, I understand your concerns, but the Vrath Grand Fleet will be here in 6 weeks. We don't have time for ethics. We need soldiers who can fight. But at what cost? Minji demanded. At any cost, Jinsu replied coldly. That's what war means. Minji left the meeting feeling defeated. But she couldn't give up. There had to be another way. She spent days reviewing the Project Reaper files, the original research, the training protocols, the conditioning methods, and she found something. A note buried in the old files. The original scientists had tried a different approach. Instead of suppressing emotions, they had tried to help soldiers manage them while still maintaining their enhanced abilities. The program had been shut down because it was deemed too risky. Soldiers who kept their emotions might refuse orders. They might question their missions. They might choose not to kill, but maybe that was the point. Maybe soldiers should be able to choose. Minji took her findings to Taeyang. He had been promoted to colonel and given command of Earth's special forces. We need to try this approach. Let the Reapers keep their humanity. The council won't approve it, Taeyang said. Then we don't ask for approval. We just do it. Taeyang looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. You're right. But we'll need volunteers who understand the risks. It might not work. They might break under the pressure, I know. But it's better than turning them into weapons who can't even remember why they're fighting. They went to see Daeho. When they explained the plan, he listened carefully. You want to enhance me again, but this time let me keep my emotions? Yes, Minji said. It's risky. The emotions might overwhelm you. The memories of what you've done might drive you insane. But you'll be able to choose to think, to be human. Daeho looked down at his hands. I've killed thousands. If I remember all of that, if I feel the weight of all those deaths, will I be able to keep fighting? I don't know, Minji admitted. That's why it's your choice. We won't force you. Daeho was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, when I look at pictures of who I used to be, I see a man who cared about people, who laughed, who loved. I want to be that person again, even if it hurts, even if it means carrying all the terrible things I've done. Then we'll help you, Taeyang said. The new enhancement process began the next week. Daeho received the same physical upgrades as before, but this time there was no psychological conditioning. Instead, Minji worked with him every day, helping him process his returning memories, helping him understand what he had become and why. It was agony. As his memories returned, Deho remembered everything. Every Vrath he had killed, every human he had failed to save, every moment of the 6 months he spent alone on Mars, slowly going mad with hunger and isolation. He remembered the moment he agreed to become a weapon, the moment he stopped being fully human, and he remembered why. The rage, the need for revenge, the desperate hope that if he became a monster, he could stop other monsters. "I made a choice," he told Minji one day. His voice was thick with emotion. "I chose to become this. No one forced me. I wanted the power." The Vrath Grand Fleet appeared in Earth's sky like a plague of metal locusts. 3,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. They filled the darkness between the stars, blocking out constellations that humanity had known for thousands of years. On Earth, every defense system came online. Orbital platforms rotated into firing positions. Fighter squadrons launched from every base on the planet. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers stood ready, knowing that most of them would die today. Overlord Thekmar broadcast his message to the entire planet. His voice was filled with hatred. "Humans, your resistance ends today. Surrender the death shadow called Deho. Give us your enhancement technology. Become servants of the Vrath Collective, or burn." From Earth Defense Command, Admiral Jinsu gave humanity's answer. "We don't surrender. We don't kneel. And we sure as hell don't give up our people to monsters. If you want Earth, come and take it." The first wave of Wrath ships began their descent. Deho stood in the launch bay with 49 other enhanced soldiers. These were the Reapers who had chosen to keep their humanity. They wore black armor marked with their names, not numbers. They carried weapons, but they also carried pictures of the people they were fighting for. Families, friends, lovers. Colonel Taeyang addressed them. His voice was steady despite the fear Deho could see in his eyes. "The mission is simple. Board Thekamar's command ship. Kill the Overlord. Cut off the head of the enemy fleet. Give our forces a chance to win." "It's a suicide mission," one of the Reapers said. Her name was Sora. She was the first volunteer who had admitted feeling emotions despite the conditioning. "Yes," Taeyang agreed. "It probably is. But if we do nothing, Earth dies. Your families die. Everything we've ever cared about turns to ash. So I'm asking you to make a choice. Stay here and fight on the ground, or come with me into space and hit them where it hurts most." Deho stepped forward. "I'll go." One by one, the other Reapers volunteered. All 50 of them. They knew they probably wouldn't come back. They chose to go anyway. That was what made them different from the old Reapers. They weren't programmed to sacrifice themselves. They chose it. And that choice mattered. The assault shuttles launched 30 minutes later. 6 ships, each carrying 8 Reapers and Colonel Taeyang. They burned through the battle above Earth, dodging Vrath fighters and human missiles. 2 shuttles were destroyed before they even reached the command ship. 16 Reapers died in explosions that lit up the dark. The remaining shuttles crashed through the command ship's hull. Boarding crews poured out, weapons firing. Deho led the first team. His enhanced senses showed him every Vrath soldier in the corridor ahead. His body moved with perfect efficiency, cutting through enemies with blades and bullets. But this time it felt different. This time he wasn't just killing. He was protecting his team. He was making sure Sora, who fought beside him, didn't die. He was covering Taeyang's advance. He was choosing each shot, each strike, based not on efficiency but on keeping his people alive. It was harder this way. The emotions made everything harder. Fear made him hesitate. Compassion made him take risks to save wounded teammates. Anger made him want revenge instead of thinking tactically. But it also made him human. The team fought through the ship for 20 minutes. They lost soldiers at every junction. Names that Deho had learned. Faces he had memorized. Each death hit him like a physical blow. The old Deho wouldn't have felt them. The new Deho felt every single one. "We're getting close," Taeyang shouted over the gunfire. Thekmar's command center is 2 levels up. They reached the command center to find it heavily defended. 50 Vrath warriors stood between them and the door. Behind those warriors, Overlord Thekmar waited. Deho counted his remaining forces. 20 Reapers, against 50 Vrath, in a narrow corridor with no cover. "This is it," Sora said quietly. She was bleeding from a wound in her side. "We're not getting through that." "Yes, we are," Deho said. He turned to his team. "Listen to me. The old Reapers would have charged forward without thinking. We would have died killing as many as possible. But we're not them. We're soldiers who can think. Who can plan? Who can choose a better way? What way? Someone asked. Deho smiled. It was a real smile, full of hope and determination. We work together. We trust each other. We use our brains as much as our weapons. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us better than the Vrath. He explained his plan. It was risky. It required perfect timing and trust in each other. But it might work. The Reapers took their positions. When Deho gave the signal, they attacked, but not like weapons. Like a team. 3 Reapers created a distraction on the left. The Vrath turned to face them. 4 more Reapers used that moment to set explosive charges on the right wall. When the explosives detonated, the wall collapsed, creating new cover. The rest of the team poured through, using the smoke and confusion to advance. Sora, despite her injury, held the rear. When Vrath tried to flank them, she was there, protecting her teammates. Not because she was programmed to. Because she chose to. Taeyang fought beside Deho. The older man wasn't enhanced, wasn't stronger or faster, but he had experience and courage. He made the hard calls when needed. He kept the team focused on their mission. The battle was brutal and bloody. More Reapers fell. Deho watched them die and felt the grief like knives in his heart, but he didn't let it stop him, he used it. The grief fueled his determination. The love for his fallen comrades made him fight harder to honor their sacrifice. Finally, they broke through. The command center doors lay ahead. Only 5 Reapers remained. Deho, Sora, Taeyang, and 2 others named Hyun and Minho. 5 against an overlord, Minho said. He was the youngest of them, barely 20 years old. We're not going to make it, are we? Probably not, Deho admitted. But we're going to try anyway. Because that's what humans do. We fight even when the odds are impossible. We hope even when hope is foolish. We care even when caring hurts, he looked at each of them. You're not weapons. You're people. You have families waiting for you on Earth. You have dreams and fears and loves. Don't forget that. No matter what happens in that room, don't forget you're human. They nodded. Then they opened the doors and charged inside. Overlord Theckamar stood in the center of the command room, surrounded by his personal guard. 20 of the largest Vrath warriors Deho had ever seen. The Overlord himself was massive, covered in battle scars and wearing armor made from the bones of enemies. Death Shadow, Theckamar said. You have come to die. Maybe, Deho replied. But you're dying with me. The final battle began. Hyun and Minho died in the first 30 seconds, overwhelmed by the Overlord's guard. But their deaths weren't meaningless. They bought time for Sora to reach the command center controls. She began sabotaging the systems, trying to disable the ship. Taeyang fought with a desperate fury. He wasn't enhanced, but he refused to fall. He dodged and weaved, using his smaller size against the larger Vrath. He kept them off balance, kept them from focusing on Deho, and Deho fought Theckamar. The Overlord was everything Deho had become and more. Strong, fast, ruthless. His 4 arms moved like whips, striking from impossible angles. His natural armor turned aside Deho's blades. His experience in 1,000 battles made him nearly unbeatable. But Deho had something Theckamar didn't. He had a reason to fight beyond duty or programming. He fought for Taeyang, for Sora, for the Reapers who had died trusting him. He fought for his friends on Mars who never got a chance to fight back. He fought for every human who just wanted to live in peace. The emotions that should have made him weaker made him stronger. The fear made him cautious. The love made him resilient. The hope made him refuse to give up. He traded blows with Theckamar, taking wounds but giving them back. His enhanced body screamed in pain, but he ignored it. He had chosen this fight. He would see it through. Sora finished her sabotage. The ship's engines began to fail. Taeyang, we need to go now. But Taeyang was down. 3 Vrath warriors stood over him, ready to kill. Deho screamed and threw himself across the room, cutting through the warriors before they could strike. He pulled Taeyang up, shielding him with his own body. Theckamar roared in fury. You care for them? You feel for them? That is weakness, Death Shadow. That is why you will fail. No, Deho said through gritted teeth. That's why I'll win. He charged Theckamar one last time. The Overlord was stronger. But Deho was willing to sacrifice himself to win. He let Theckamar's blade pierce his armor, pierce his chest. The pain was terrible. But it gave him the opening he needed. He drove both his blades up through Theckamar's throat. The Overlord stumbled back, surprise in his eyes. He fell to his knees, then to the floor. The great leader of the Vrath Grand Fleet died on his own command ship, killed by a human who refused to be a weapon. Deho collapsed. Sora was there instantly, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me. We can get you to the shuttle." "No time," Deho whispered. His enhanced body was failing. The wound was too severe. "Get Taeyang out. Get yourself out. That's an order." "We don't leave people behind," Sora said fiercely. "You're not leaving me behind. I'm staying by choice." Deho grabbed her hand. "Remember what I said? You're human. Keep being human, no matter what." Taeyang limped over. His face was wet with tears. "Deho, don't, please. It's okay, Commander. I'm not afraid. I'm not empty."